So let's jump right into it, guys. In this arc, Act 3 of Wano, we're gonna have to see a power up from Luffy. In the Big Mom arc, Luffy got his power up when he got into the fight with Katakuri. Basically, he learned on the fly. As he was fighting Katakuri, he realized that Katakuri had the ability to, one, see into the future, so he could predict Luffy's attacks. He could therefore prepare himself to dodge and better counter. Luffy realized that he was outclassed, and in doing that, he also realized that there was room for him to grow. He thought back at his training with Rayleigh, and he realized that Rayleigh was basically telling him that hockey blooms in points of contention, to where you need it the most and you're in a heated battle. Those are the times that hockey blooms. Luffy didn't really realize this in just the Katakuri fight, though. We have to give respect to one of the other sweet commanders, and that's Charlotte Cracker. In his fight with Charlotte Cracker, when Luffy was attempting to do damage, he realized that, one, his armament hockey was not on par like it should be if he was going to go up against a Yonko. Because, hey, let's be honest, he was going up against the weakest sweet commander at the time that we knew of. At that time, we knew that Snack was a commander, but we did not know Snack's strength. And to be honest, to this point, we still haven't seen Snack have a full fight. Therefore, we don't know if he's stronger or weaker than Cracker due to his ability, and we don't know how Snack's ability would have fared in a fight against Luffy. We know in his other fight, he lost, and it was pretty embarrassing. I know we still got a lot of people that put old buddy in top 5 for that, but I won't even speak his name because I firmly disagree. But I digress. Back to the topic. Luffy had a power up in his hockey in that he was able to see into the future, and he basically mimicked Katakuri in a way. It wasn't as good as Katakuri's, and he's still learning how to use it, because Katakuri was able to use his in the heat of the moment a whole lot faster and with better concentration. Luffy is able to use it to this point that we've seen against fodder characters, but we have not seen him use it against people like Kaido, top tier fighters. We haven't seen him be able to use it to his advantage, and that's something we gotta see. We gotta see him in this Wano arc use that ability to his advantage to better himself. Also, something else we learned in this arc was that he worked on his armament hockey to take it to an advanced level. Luffy learned the basics of armament hockey from Rayleigh, and that's something that Rayleigh made sure to harp on, to the fact that he wanted Luffy to know the foundation of all the different hockeys. But the anime also made sure to say that Rayleigh wasn't there the whole time with him. It basically came off as if Rayleigh showed him the basics, made sure that he had a good foundation to expand upon each set of hockey, and then he left. And he went back to Sabaody to basically coat Luffy's ship. Therefore, Luffy was pretty much there learning on the fly. We expect more learning on the fly in Act 3 of Wano, simply because Luffy, even with all this training, he's not going to be ready to just fight Kaido off the back. I honestly feel that Luffy's going to have to fight one of the sweet commanders to, one, get up his confidence, and to develop the moves and the techniques that he's going to need to incorporate his new level of armament hockey into his fighting style. Luffy's a brawler. Luffy really doesn't have techniques kind of like a Jimbe that are more from the style of karate, more from the style of palm thrust. Like, we do know he has his sumo wrestling style, but even still, that's more of a grappling, that's more of a brawler type of style. So we're basically going to see the growth of Luffy in having other tools in his bag that he can use, basically. And I think that's a big thing. That's something that has to come up in Act 3. We saw Luffy doing a lot of work with Hugoro, one of the Yakuza bosses, when he finally got out of the prison. And we remember the scene when they were in the prison when Hugoro basically put his life on the line to force Luffy to try to bloom right there on the fly in his fight with Big Mom. And in the end, Luffy failed. But in that, Luffy learned the distance between himself at that time and Big Mom, a full-fledged Yonko. And then let's be honest, I don't think that that punch was full power. I still think Big Mom was holding back a decent amount of her strength because she wasn't in her right mind. We know when Big Mom is in her right mind and she can use all of her powers to include her devil fruit at its full potential, she is a devastating woman. And Luffy only got a percentage of her strength and he wasn't able to stand up. That's a big deal, people. Because in this arc, Act 3, we have to see the growth of Luffy. And it has to be exponential. It can't be just plot armor. Oda has to flesh out and build up on, okay, yes, you did all this training with Hagoro. We explained to you the difference between basic armament haki, which is just you coating your body in different forms of armor to protect yourself. And there's different levels of that. Like Katakuri's block mochi. Like Cracker's mochi where he formed his armored biscuits. There's different levels of that. But now we're showing you how to focus haki outside of your body in a form of invisible armor. How to add that extra coat of armor to your already basic levels of haki. And then also how to switch that and make it now more offensive. To where all of that haki that you're focusing in an aura around the body part that you're using to attack at that time, you could basically thrust it or shoot it at or into the body of your opponent. And that's something that we're going to have to see from Luffy. That's growth. And that's also a level of mastery that I believe we're going to have to see from Luffy before we can see a legitimate fight between him and Kaido, between him and Big Mom. And honestly, I'm going to go out on a limb and say between him and the number one when it comes to Kaido's Beast Commanders. I don't think that Kaido's number one calamity is going to be taken down easily by Luffy's level of fighting right now. I think that Oda's basically building up each Yonko and building up their crew. And I don't believe for a second that Katakuri is the strongest Yonko commander at all. I think Shanks, number one Yonko commander, is stronger. I think Kaido's Yonko commander is stronger. And to be honest, I honestly think that Marco, Whitebeard's commander, would have given Katakuri a run for his money. Simply because of the styles of fighting and the different fruits. I think that would have been a good high-diff fight that could have fallen either way. And we have yet to see the depths of Marco's power, because basically Marco was playing babysitter. He was basically caring about the health of Whitebeard, and he was basically babysitting all of his other peers until they got Ace loose. And I think that was Marco's main job on that ship. Marco's main job wasn't to be a number one. Marco's job on that ship was to babysit Whitebeard because he was close to dying. He was poor of health anyway. And he needed a doctor, a medic around him at all times. And to basically make sure that nobody messed over the rest of the members of the crew. So he's basically that protective big brother. But I digress on that. The second thing we need to see in this is just, let's be honest, we got to get a Zoro flashback. We got to understand about Zoro's childhood, his upbringing, and his connections to Wano. The reason why this is important and why it should tie in into Act 3 is the fact that in the Big Mom arc, we got a flashback on Sanji's past. His family, his mom, his dad, his brothers, his sisters, and the history of why Sanji was the way he was. That gave depth to Sanji's character. Sanji got more sympathy from a lot of viewers. I know me included. I was never truly in the Sanji camp. And then at the end of that arc, Sanji got the power up of the raid suit. We've already seen Zoro get Emma. And we're looking at Emma as Zoro's true version of a power up in this arc. Simply because he was told by Tenguyama that that sword could be upgraded to become a black blade. It all depends on Zoro. How fast it becomes that and when he uses it. But he has Emma. But I still believe that it's certain techniques, certain family heritage, family lineage things that need to be passed down. They need to flesh out the word snatch and why Zoro was told that word or basically taught it as a child. What is its significant meaning to Zoro? They need to flesh out Zoro's backstory more so we can understand his character and give him some depth. And I honestly think since this next chapter should go into a flashback to talk about Oden Kazuki, I think that's the perfect time for them to tie in some of the lineage of Zoro. And I would not be surprised if during that 41-year flashback, when they're building up the characters and building up the storyline and building up the world of One Piece, that we tap into descendants, we tap into people that are family members that are in Zoro's family lineage, and we get a better understanding of why Zoro is the way he is. The next thing that I feel Oda needs to wrap up in this arc is where are we going with Kid? We saw that Kid was basically broken. Not because of himself, but he was basically fully broken once he found out what happened to Killer. Once Kid saw the state that Kaido and his crew and his henchmen put Killer in, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And Kid, we need to learn more about Kid. They need to develop his character more. We need to understand his connection to at least Killer when it comes to this crew. Because they went into it a little bit basically saying you hated your laugh. You would beat up anybody that said anything about it or even brought it up. You can't just put that information out there and not go anywhere with it. So we need to see, hey, what happened back then? Why does he hate his smile? What is it about his smile that makes him dislike himself? How is he going to get cured? Is Chopper going to find a cure? Is it going to be someone else? What is Kid going to do? What is going to be Kid's role in this arc going forward? I really don't care about Kid's role right now as a character in the hold as far as the world of One Piece. Because, for one, Oda's given Luffy too much plot armor and he's bigged him up so far that he has a lot of catching up to do. You have Luffy already being called a baby Yonko. Kid has a lot of catching up to do if he's going to join that conversation. And considering that he spent a lot of his time since Luffy's been training in the prison of one of the strongest Yonko, it kind of doesn't help his storyline and help his portrayal as far as his standing in the pirate world. And that's something that Oda has to build upon. I want to learn more about Killer. I want to learn more about his backstory, and I want to know what part are they basically gonna take in this fight, in this war, that's gonna overthrow supposedly Kaido, Big Mom, and it's gonna dwarf Marineford. The next thing is just simply all the rabbit holes, all the loose ends. So you have the Marines. Earlier in the chapter, we saw Orochi talking with basically the government and talking with CP0. And in that conversation, Vegapunk got brought up. We have to learn more about Vegapunk, and we have to know, hey, he requested Vegapunk to show up. If Vegapunk does show up, that's already going to be a ginormous reveal by itself. But then to add to that, we know if Vegapunk shows up, there's no way he's showing up by himself. Those new weapons that are supposed to replace the Shishibukai will probably be in tow and probably be the bodyguards that he uses if he goes to Wano. So that's some serious incoming. 2, if Vegapunk shows up, why would Orochi want him there? Like, they can't have you take out Kaido and take out Orochi and not flesh out that point. Because Orochi requested him for a reason. Why? What is the reason? Let us know, Oda. You can't off-screen that. You can't just do a flashback to the reverie and just cut it off as if it was never a statement. Oda usually doesn't throw things out there like that without eventually paying them off. And that's something that we can't lose sight on. They brought up the name of Vegapunk. I want to see Vegapunk in Act 3. Another thing is my boy Jimbe and Nekomamushi. Big Mom's here, her crew is here. Where are the Fisherman Pirates? Where's Jimbe? Is Jimbe still alive? I don't think that they would add Jimbe to the crew and just make it official that he's a new crew member and kill him off. But I do feel that they would use Jimbe as a wedge to tear Straw Hat and the Straw Hat Pirates away from what's going on right now. But I don't think that that would be the primary edge. I think it would be a piece that has to be peace with other people to pull them away from what they're doing right now. And that takes me into my last person, which is Sabo. Previous arcs, we had a flashback into which Big News Morgan was talking about news from the Reverie. And we found out that the admirals got into it with Sabo and his crew, the revolutionaries, and that a battle ensued and basically everybody was in awe and something terrible happened. And we saw that the world government was trying to cover it up. My thoughts on that is, if it was anything negative towards the revolutionaries, there's no way in the world that the world government will want to cover that up. If anything, they would go out of their way to brag. They would go out of their way to forecast that information because they would know that that would draw Dragon in and give them the ability to take out one of their biggest nemesis. So let's just knock that out right now. I don't think Sabo's dead. I don't think anything negative happened to Sabo, because if it did, why would the world government try to hide it and stop the World Times from posting it, from basically printing it and putting it out to the world? That makes no sense to me. What would make more sense to me is that something happened that affected one of the members of the world government, and they didn't want their other allies and that person's country to, one, know that they're responsible, or that somebody that's a part of their world government little group died on their watch. I think that plays a big part in it because you can't say that you're, as the world government, protecting people and your admirals lost somebody on your watch while they were in your care at your meeting in the palace of the celestial dragons. That looks bad on you. That doesn't look bad on the revolutionaries. That looks bad on you. That looks bad on the Marines. And that looks bad on your security apparatus as a whole. Another thing, I think it was multiple things that happened, but I think that played a part. I also think that whatever it had to do with the revolutionaries, they used that to attempt to change the narrative and control the narrative, basically saying that because of their fight with the revolutionaries, this person, whomever it was hurt, was severely injured, or killed. I do think that Sabo's alive. I think that they're going to use it to say that Marco killed someone. I mean, not Marco. Sabo killed someone. But instead of it being he killed someone in protection of Kuma or to release Kuma and get Kuma back, it's going to be someone that was a part of the world government jumped in the way to save another world government member or a celestial, and Sabo just lost his temper and just took it out on that person. That's the only thing I can think of. And if that's the case, would that be enough to pull Luffy away to go find out the status of Sabo, to go save Sabo? Would that pull Luffy away from Wano? I don't think Jimbe alone will pull Luffy away from Wano, but I know if Jimbe and Sabo are both off in a form of danger, Luffy's not gonna let another brother die. Luffy, I do believe, will leave Wano in a heartbeat, and that act would just go on. And basically, it would be Luffy getting the whole Straw Hat fleet and going to wherever Sabo is, or wherever Sabo's injured at, and handling business. Using that as a time skip, because that would be a growth arc for Luffy. It would be a separate arc. They would immediately, to me, jump into the revolutionary arc. And then this fight that's supposed to happen in Wano would end somewhere else. Because let's be honest, guys. How in the world is Luffy, his entire alliance that he has now, Big Mom, her fleet that's with her, ship that's with her, Kaido, his entire army, Orochi and his entire army, how are all those people going to fight on Onigashima? Onigashima doesn't look that big. Onigashima could probably barely stand a fight just between Kaido and Big Mom. So you're having two Yonko fight with a baby Yonko and his entire alliance. Kaido wouldn't just plunge his entire home into the water. That makes no sense to me. Also, what part is Zunisha going to play in this? Is Zunisha connected to one of the ancient weapons? We heard in the last chapter, that Oden Kazuki basically said his family was one of the reasons, or something that happened in his past was one of the reasons that the borders to Wano were closed. They have to flesh that out. Why? We've seen Zunisha, we've seen the Sea Kings. What other creatures that are from the Void time period are alive that are able to be controlled by the Kazukis? Is the island that they're presently on an animal? Could it be the back of a crab or the back of a turtle? Something crazy like that. I mean, the imagination can run wild ever since they introduced Zunisha. And it can go a lot of places. So, I'll end it with that, guys. Stay tuned for more content. I look forward to this chapter this week coming out, and Oda hitting us with more amazing content and more amazing things. Thank you guys for listening, and stay tuned for more content from Jonathan McKnight. Please subscribe. please click the like button. If you dislike the content, click the dislike button. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And let me know what other things you would like for me to talk about. Peace.